bad studio apparently because I just deleted myself. This is just not my day. Turn on. Thank you. I want closed captioning. Y'all, when you're bringing new technology to the table, listen, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to try to let them do most of the talking because they're not going to echo like I'm echoing. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to forget about any rants that I got today, and we are just going to introduce our candidates and let them go. How's that sound to y'all? All right. Indiana's own Dana Black, we are coming to you live. I'm here, Miss Teresa. I ain't going nowhere. All right, first up, I get excited when I get an opportunity to meet new candidates because new candidates bring fire and energy and optimism and hope to what it is that we are trying to do out here. I want to introduce you to a young man that's coming out of the Hamilton County area because, they act like, ain't no Democrats in Hamilton County. We're taking over everywhere, baby. We are taking over everywhere. Let me introduce you to Ronnie Saunders, who is currently a firefighter and an EMT with the Indianapolis Fire Department and lives in Westfield with his family. He has a wife and 2 daughters. I am not dropping their names because they didn't say I could. I'm going to let you do that. Ronnie, welcome to the show. He is running in Senate District 2?
20.
20. I didn't write the 0 down. This Senate District 20. And then next up is a returning candidate who I had a chance to meet 2 years ago when he was running in the same district that he's running in right now. And one of the things that I loved about this man was, when Toby Beck won the district, she won the primary, he did not go away. He stayed involved. He helped Toby on her campaign for Congress. And those are the kind of people that we want in our party, leading our party. Y'all welcome back. Running again, putting his name out there on the ballot, and running in Congressional District number 4, my man and friend, I call a friend, Joe Mackey. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Dana, it's always good to spend time with you, my friend. You're just high energy. You're so positive. And to be honest, candidates need that. They need that interaction.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of medicine. It's medicinal.
Absolutely. You guys are, out here running these campaigns in the middle of this pandemic. Joe, tell the people what it's been like for you to change your strategy and try to reach the people through technology.
Well, we were doing everything right. Our campaign was growing. We were bringing in more and more volunteers. I think in January we were eyeballing 70 active volunteers around the district. And then, of course, the pandemic occurred, the shutdown occurred. We were actually at a point where we were speaking about setting up canvassing teams and phone banking teams and going out and targeting communities and knocking on doors. And some of our younger people just kind of looked at us like with deer in the headlights, and they were like, "We got to do what? We're going to have to do what?" And Teresa and I thought that was rather sweet. And then, like I say, the pandemic came, and suddenly these younger people, they were like, "Okay, we've got to pivot. We're going e-media. We can get Zoom. We can do WebEx. We can do Facebook Live. We'll get all these events. We'll get you going." And Teresa and I were like deer in the headlights. We were like, we're going to watch. So it really has been a wonderful experience. The whole art of campaigning is changing, and the whole country is learning a whole new way to reach people and to speak to people and to engage. And I think a lot of it has been, for the most part, positive.
So, I love it. I love it. So tell the people who you are and where you come from.
So I was born in Lafayette. I'm the youngest of 8. I have a twin sister. She is 6 minutes older than I am. I'm the son of immigrants. We immigrated to the United States in 1952 and to Lafayette in 1956. My father went to work for the Monon Railroad. My wife, Tammy, is a lifelong resident of Lafayette, a graduate of Lafayette Jeff, a graduate of Purdue University with 2 degrees, one in accounting from the Cranach School of Business, and the other in a Bachelor of Nursing from the Purdue University School of Nursing. We have been very active in our community as our children grew up. We lost our two youngest children. We had three. We lost our two youngest to two different cancers in a span of just 30 months. So these cancers were genetically unrelated to each other or to Tammy and I. We started a small pediatric cancer foundation, and we try to help pediatric cancer families buy food, pay bills, cover out-of-pocket expenses for their medicines, get gas, keep their cars running, whatever it is they need, we try to get and help them with. Our son Connor is an IU grad. He's married and living in Chicago. He was married in January. His wife Nazanin is also an Indiana University grad. This is who I am. I'm a blue collar guy. I worked in a factory for almost 30 years. Machinist. I worked in the machine shop for a local large engine manufacturer. And you know, until our tragedies with our children, we thought we were doing pretty good. Worked for a good company. I made a good salary. My wife is a nurse. We had good healthcare insurance, and then we learned the hard way that even those with good healthcare insurance are not financially prepared to manage catastrophic healthcare. And this is something that, as we worked with families around the state, we began to recognize that this was not a unique problem. So we lost Claire in June of 2011 and Patrick in December of 2013. And quite literally from 2011, I have been advocating for a single payer healthcare system. I believe that it is the right way to go. 33 of the 33 developed nations on the planet today, the United States is the only one without a single payer system. We pay traditionally 40% more in healthcare costs, and we suffer less favorable outcomes. So we are getting less quality at a higher price. We can do better. I believe this. It's a centerpiece of the campaign. We're advocating for public school education. There is no longer equity in our public school systems. We're watching money be drained. These schools are being bankrupted, our school systems. We're hemorrhaging qualified teachers. We're struggling to keep teachers in the classroom. We don't want to pay them. So these are issues that we're dealing with at the federal level. These are the ideas that we're taking to Congress. These are the issues that we want to pursue. We have been promoting green technologies and renewable energies. And, you know, as you know, Indiana leads the nation in manufacturing. And we should be manufacturing these products here. We should not be bringing them in, importing them from abroad. Indiana has a wonderful industrial base full of talented people. We just watched a Ford plant over here in Kokomo open up and are producing PPE. And they did that in weeks. And the people who are stepping into that job, the blue collar people stepping into that job, are skilled, they're intelligent, they're driven, they know quality, they produce quality. This is the American blue collar worker. These are the people, I believe, who have been by and large ignored. And I think it's time to send blue collar people to Washington, D.C.
That's what's up. Now, I got to bring the newbie in. Ronnie Saunders, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
All right. So again, my name is Ronnie Saunders. First and foremost, I am a Christian. I do profess Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and He is the source of my all. An extension of that, I am a husband and a father. Got a wonderful wife and two lovely kids that are they complete my heart. And then Beyond that, I'm a firefighter, EMT, first responder. I am a former educator and a union member. I volunteer. I'm active in my church, and honestly, just a proud public servant. I love serving the people. I'm a product of public schools. I have gone to public institutions from my grade school years all the way through college, and I'm a lifelong Hoosier. Uh, love love Indiana. I was born and raised in Indianapolis. Um, Moved to Westfield when my wife and I were talking about how we wanted life to be for our children, and Hamilton County has had just they've had just the best of the school districts here in the state, and we wanted something a little bit better than what we got when we grew up. So we decided to move to Westfield for the betterment of our children.
Well, and you know what? I gotta ask this because I'm a Naptowner too. What high school did you go to?
I went to Pike, and I won't hold North Central against you.
No, what you talking me? You know you wanted to be a Panther. You know you wanted to be a Panther. Them Red Devils. What are you talking about? You know you want to be a Panther. You wanted to move just a little more east so you can get some of that flavor. Okay,
I got a couple of good friends that went to North Central, but I still Red Devil over here.
All right. I'll let you have the West Sider. That's where I bought my first home. So being an EMT and a first responder, you have been on the front lines, literally, during this COVID crisis. Talk about what you have seen. And as you are running for the state senate, how you now understand how you can have an impact with the policies that you create.
Well, I can tell you firsthand when things first started, when the pandemic really started hitting and folks were really starting to get sick, and there was just an increase in calls in 911, and we were going out on just regular difficulty breathings to flat out cardiac arrest runs, and every patient had to be treated the same. And we were, our run load increased just exponentially, just went up. Instead of going on maybe 2 or 3 runs an hour, we're going on like 4 or 5 an hour, and you do 24-hour shifts of that, and it's tiring, but you get to see how bad it's actually really out here in the streets, and that's just the Indy metro area, and there's plenty of places around the state and country that are feeling this, or we're feeling it worse. But we got to see a wide spectrum of people that were dealing with this, and so we weren't seeing that it was just one demographic or one neighborhood or one set of folks that was affected by this. This was something that was clearly touching everybody, and that's just in our area. And so it is vitally important that we have the equipment, and the policies, and the overall healthcare structure in place to be able to aid all parties involved when something like this comes about. When you have a crisis of this manner, you have to not only consider the patients, although they are who we are going to be working for, but you also got to take into account the first responders, the emergency room workers, and make sure that there's proper procedures that are clearly outlined that take care of all parties involved.
And I think it's interesting that both of you today, I know that healthcare and caring for people and what that system looks like has been the center point of who you are as humans before you were even candidates running for office. And I think that speaks volumes to your nurturing side. But Joe, I want to ask you, healthcare, yes, is a big issue, and I will not, discredit that or discount that for one single second. But talk about when you go to Washington, D.C., one of the other things that you are going to have to deal with and contend with is the climate change, and how Indiana right now is ranked at the bottom of every statistical category when it comes to our environment. Talk about some of the things that you want to do when you get to Congress on how to rectify and remedy and bring awareness to that.
Well, Dana, there's a number of ideas out there. Of course, on the left, we have the Green New Deal. And it is a very broad document outlining goals, objectives. Now, others have attempted to put a financial cost on that, and they say, look at this cost, it's too expensive. And they speak of environmental issues, climate change, with the same terms they speak to us of education and of a single payer system. It's all too expensive. These are investments. You make investments today for a more profitable and better future. I have been promoting the creation of tax-free green bonds.
Mm-hmm.
We must join the green bond market. We can breathe life into this. We can literally unleash the power of the capitalist system.
Well, explain what a
bring this to life.
Explain what a green bond is.
So, we have municipal bonds. We have bonds. Companies can float them. Municipalities can float them. People buy into this bond at a certain guarantee of a rate of return. Say it's a 5-year bond and they guarantee you 10% or 12%. So you buy into this bond and 5 years later, you get your investment back plus 12%. What I'm looking at is eliminating any taxes involved with these. Make them tax-free. You will draw investors from the private market, from the institutional investors on Wall Street, from the banks, from big businesses. I can tell you that at the time that the Paris Climate Accord was signed by all the other nations in the world, the global green bond market was worth about 500 billion, and today it's worth about 100 trillion. And this is the rest of the world. Governments are getting involved. They're creating green projects within their own countries, but they're also investing through businesses elsewhere in the world. The United States did not sign the Paris Climate Accord. We chose to stand on the sideline and allow the rest of the world to move forward. I think it's a backwards looking position. I think it's just American obstinance. And it's time for us to get back in the game. It's time for us to get back in this game. Mm-hmm. Indiana is among the most polluted states in the nation. 3.5 million tons of toxins were deposited into our water, our soil, and our air as of 2018. I haven't seen the 19 data yet. It'll be out. But this is who we are. And let's understand that the environment and our health are tied together. Mm-hmm. If your environment is unhealthy, you will not be healthy. Mm-hmm. And we have examples of that. We can look at Gary. We can look at Johnson County, home of one of the largest pediatric cancer clusters in the nation. Mm-hmm. We can look down here at Morgan County with large deposits of coal ash and the health issues being faced by citizens down there. We can literally go into every county in the state and find brownfields, toxic sites. So, as part of this green investment in infrastructure, we should be talking about environmental remediation. These are all infrastructure jobs. These are the new technologies, applying new sciences, creating new opportunities for Hoosiers. And we should be on both sides of this ball. We should be manufacturing this stuff. We should be bringing investors and entrepreneurs together with business people and creating these new technologies and manufacturing them. We can do this. We must have a voice in Congress, and we do not have it today.
No, we don't.
Do not have it today.
Not from Indiana,
not from
no.
the 4th Congressional District, not from the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th.
You got it from the 7th?
Right down the line.
Wait a minute, that's the wrong number. We got it from the 7th. Andre Carson, baby.
We the 1st district, we just need these voices.
Yeah.
And we can make this happen.
Yeah. So Ronnie,
it's a smart way to go.
Yeah.
It's a smart way to look forward.
Ronnie, knowing that you travel, okay, so he mentioned a lot of our rural areas that have a lot of contamination, but you see the environment, I imagine, from an EMT and a first responder when you're traveling around Indianapolis in an urban area, how the environment is being, or these environments are being negatively impacted by climate change as well. Talk about what again, you're seeing things that the rest of us just aren't seeing when you're responding to situations. Talk about what you're seeing around some of our urban core in relationship to environmental concerns.
So I actually feel like I'm kind of uniquely equipped to see it from two different aspects, because I do see it in urban Indianapolis, but I also do see it in my home in semi-rural Hamilton County.
Mm-hmm.
So in Indianapolis, there are areas where you can see, just the downfall that particularly White River has taken. And so you get you just being around it, you get the smell, or you can just tell like the soil around it is just no good. And there's just a lot that people just don't consider that is environmental impacts, because they just see it as just part of progress, part of just building and expanding, and it is what it is. But that's not necessarily a positive thing when it comes to the environment. We still do have a responsibility to still be good stewards of the land that we are either taking or repurposing, or trying to expand upon, and still treating it with some kind of respect, because this earth is we work together. We as human beings and this earth, we work together, and if we mistreat it, then we won't be able to get a lot of our foods and a lot of the nutrients that we require from it.
Mm-hmm.
And our farmers here in Hamilton County are the ones that are really going to be working with their backs against the wall if we are not going to advocate for climate change, climate control type policies that help kind of stave off these wild swings in climate and almost unnatural weather events that happen, where you have these massive rains that flood these fields for weeks at a time, but then that whole crop is gone, and then that's a whole season just about that's been wasted, and that's time and energy and effort that those farmers have put into place, and the crops that they were going to sell, it takes money out of those farmers' pockets, so they're not able to provide for their families like the way that they had planned on. But two, it also takes product away that was supposed to be sent out to different parts of the state and the country. These are all intertwined, and a lot of the work that happens here in Indiana benefits not only Hoosiers but also different areas of the country. So there's a big importance that I think that should be placed on the environmental impacts that happen here in Indiana, specifically our rural counties, because of us being major suppliers of produce and the whole country.
Yeah, and you know what? I recognized it last year when I was traveling around the state, which, by the way, if there's anything that I missed during this COVID-19 is getting out into these 92 counties, talking to people, hyping them up as Democrats. I missed that. But I noticed last year, we couldn't even get our fields planted like we should because of how much rain and how much water. And then to have, Clown 45 running around talking about we gonna have a trade rate war with China when that was a lot of our consumer base for our agricultural folk. I mean, and the negative impact of the economy is just like driving me nuts. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit because I really want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to hear why you all are running for office. So, Ronnie, you had before this lockdown, you had a chance to get out and meet your constituents. Tell me how, what your platform is and how talking to your constituents has shaped your platform.
So, where I'm at here in Westfield, Indiana, there are no Democrats that represent me at any level of government. And that's...
Okay, who's typing? Joe Mackey? Hold on a second. Joe Mackey, can your team stop typing? And can you mute your phone? Mute when you're not talking. That way we can, because I'm hearing the clickety clack. It's real loud too.
Dana, I apologize. That is my dog.
Not the dog. Okay, don't hurt the dog. Don't hurt the dog. But go ahead and mute when you guys aren't talking. That way we can kind of give the other person respect. I'm sorry, Ronnie. Go ahead, boo.
I know you're fine. It's all good. So the fact that there's no Democrats representing this area at any level just doesn't make any sense because there are Democrats that live here. Mm-hmm. And so Democrats deserve a seat at the table. They deserve to be heard. There's changing demographics with, with the change of the demographics here, there are more Dems and just more different, ideas and different backgrounds moving into the area. And with that, you have different perspectives. And when you're able to get different perspectives in the room and have a conversation, you're forced to kind of hammer out the idea and come up with a solution to the problems that seems to make a better fit for everybody mm-hmm. involved. Everybody has a seat at the table with a voice that's worth listening to. And that's what the people here seem to be yearning for. They haven't had it for years. We've had Republican control in this district of this particular seat for, I believe, 32 years now. And people are looking for a different type of leadership. They're looking for somebody that has not only just a different perspective, but somebody who's looking to work with people from the other side of the aisle. And I feel like that is something that I can do.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to. You're going to have to with only 10. And then if you win and some other folks win, with only 10 out of 50, right. You're going to have to build those bridges.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. So not only do we only have 10 Democrats, but we are lacking in diversity of race as well. And there are more people of color that are moving into Hamilton County as well, and they deserve to have somebody representing their thoughts and their ideas as well. But not only is race diversity something that we need to be striving for, but also work and life experience. You need somebody who hasn't or doesn't, always represent the corporate interests. You need what we need is quote unquote real people that have some real life hardworking experience that have gone through some things and know how to relate to the average Hoosier and who come with different perspectives and different backgrounds and ideas that they can put to the table. And that's something that I feel like I can do. I feel like I am somebody who is of the people who will go to the Capitol building and work for the people.
Absolutely. I think that is I've had that conversation with another one of my guests who actually, he hadn't gone to college. He's just him and his dad built a business up. And it was all about having a diverse a set of ideas. My sister, who is an attorney and a federal judge, she was serious when she posed the question to me about whether all of our legislatures should be lawyers. And I was like, what? I said, then that's only one, streamlined way of thinking. She's like, but that we're dealing with laws. I said, yeah, but if you have only one way of thinking, then the laws are they're all gonna have the same feel, the same sound. You gotta have farmers and engineers and doctors. If maybe we had some real scientists in the White House, maybe some real stuff would get it going on. Joe, talk to me about how you've been out here for 4 years now. Talk to me what's going on in District 4 and what they want to see you talk about when you get to Congress and how it's shaped your campaign.
Well, Dana, you can look around the fort. Look what's happening right now in Cass County. 1,500 people in Cass County diagnosed with COVID-19. So they have a very clear problem. Their county commissioners, without really engaging their constituency, is working to bring in a company that recycles or reclaims zinc. They are known as aggressive polluters. The community, the entire county, is up in arms about this. We're seeing now a lot of Republicans around the district. They're looking at the environmental issues that business can bring with them. They're looking at in the rural areas. Thomasina Marsili was on the other night. Who doesn't love Thomasina Marsili?
Who doesn't love Thomasina? Hope and 8, baby.
And she did such a wonderful job identifying the disparities and inequities in rural education. So we moved after the shutdown to e-learning. And the result was children in the rural communities, I want to say 40%, have no access to internet. Their education stopped. Their education stopped. Their families are upset. It's compounded, however, because the same children who have no access to internet at home in our rural communities, their families have no access to telemedicine. So as healthcare continues to regionalize, healthcare in the rural areas gets farther and farther away. And this promotion of, well, we have telemedicine. And so now they not only have inequities in education, but also now compounded inequities in access to healthcare. Okay. We're looking at businesses in the rural communities struggling because their customer base has no access to internet. It's very difficult to attract new businesses into a county when your access to internet is limited or unstable.
You think we should adopt one of those Eisenhower plans like we did for the highway system and create that internet highway? Do you think we could ever get... Listen, I ain't trying to go back nowhere because back there ain't never cool for people like me. But I mean, the idea that the nation came together to create this amazing roadway. Right now, they would suggest trying to get a highway 65 from Indianapolis to Chicago is a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? But do you think that we could ever get to a point where we can have that type of cooperative work when it comes to America's infrastructure from the federal level to say, okay, listen, let's create this internet highway and let's make it secure? Do you think, is that something you want to work on?
Absolutely. So, I think the goal should be this at the federal level. We should be driving federal funding right down to local municipalities, county governments. We should be, because these county governments, these municipalities, they know where their infrastructure needs are. Ronnie just mentioned healthcare in terms of ambulance calls. Volunteer fire departments in the rural areas are understaffed, ill-equipped, and ill-prepared to deal with the onslaught of a COVID-19 pandemic. We need to build this up. Firefighters, first responders in the rural areas are typically, they're the front line, and they are under-equipped and through no fault of their own, ill-prepared to deal with these problems. So, let's talk to the communities. I don't think anyone, let me say this. I think everyone is a bit tired of Washington mandating. And we can do this without passing mandates necessarily, down to the community level. In my hometown of Tippecanoe County,
Absolutely.
I trust my local government to make these infrastructure decisions based on what they're seeing the needs are.
So if
That's
Ronnie,
not being seen from Washington.
right? So Ronnie,
That's being seen here.
so if Joe
this
gets,
is what
go ahead. I'm
this
sorry.
is what government needs to do.
Absolutely. So Ronnie, if Joe gets to Congress and he's able to allocate some funds for infrastructure needs, right? Especially high-speed internet, things like that. Tell the people how you would want to see those infrastructure dollars being spent from, in the State House down to the dog is getting away from us, y'all. The dog is getting away from us. You never know what's going to happen on turn left. Ronnie, you still there, my man? Did I lose you, Ronnie? Ronnie? Did I lose you, Ronnie? Is Ronnie still there? I think can y'all hear me?
I can hear you, Dana. I apologize. Our son is home and he brought his dog with him, and she's a bit antsy.
Gotcha.
I'm still here. It broke.
Okay, so Ronnie, I was asking you, once Joe gets to Congress and he's allocated some dollars back down to Indiana, how do you see us allocating those dollars from the State House for infrastructure needs?
Well, it's okay. So we're talking still infrastructure. I actually believe that the expanding broadband internet connection throughout the state is almost an imperative, and it's for a lot of the reasons that Joe just mentioned, especially when it comes to education. When you look at what the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed a lot of issues that we have, and if we're just going to let's just talk about the education portion of it for right now. So kids are having to do e-learning. Kids are stuck at home, still in the middle of their school year, and they still have a curriculum they have to complete. We're forced to do this long distance, but there are kids, like Joe pointed out, that don't have access to internet. Mm-hmm. Their only access was either at the school or at the libraries, which are both closed now. So they're falling behind, and the summer drop off starts a lot sooner for them. In order to keep them engaged and keep them working, we got to have reliable internet in those homes, wherever they're at, whether it is in rural communities, or even if it's in a bustling city, urban city that is where maybe they, for whatever reason, can't they don't have it in their home. It almost should be treated as like a utility. Every home is piped with water. Every home has electricity lines that are connected to it. There should be broadband lines connected to these homes as well. And I would love to see our General Assembly work towards getting something on the books where we are putting something in place for high-speed internet in all the homes where it is possible for people to have access, continue to further work on their education, or take advantage of telehealth if necessary. Broadband, we're finding out right now, is vital to
absolutely
a host of different aspects of our lives right now.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because this pandemic has pulled the curtain back on so many cracks in our foundation, right? I mean, listen, we knew that we had some issues in the United States, and we knew that we wanted to address them. But watching people vehemently opposing the things that we need for humans with our tax dollars, mind you, is something that has just been, the veil has been lifted, especially when we talk about education, right? Betsy DeVos this week is doing everything she can to get some of that crisis money, public education money, to private and parochial schools. Now, look, I read today that, some of the Catholic schools are going to have to shut down because people can't afford the tuition and they want some of our tax dollars. I'm sorry that those Catholic institutions are going to have to shut down. However, those teachers in those Catholic schools or those parishioners can usually find something else within the diocese, right? There's a whole conglomerate that's in place.
Right.
But these same schools have the opportunity then to say, well, my religion says I don't have to take care of or accept LGBTQ plus students or students that have LGBTQ plus parents. So to me, the problem isn't that, I'm sorry that these schools are shutting down, but when you take public dollars, when you take tax dollars, you should have to adhere to the exact same rules. But Betsy DeVos and a lot of the people right now are doing everything they can to defund public education. And Ronnie, especially right here in Indiana, they are reneging on our constitutional promise to take care of public education. Can you talk to me about what you see the need is for our public education system, our teachers, our students, the whole nine?
Well, here's the thing when it comes to education, we just flat out need to make sure that one, all Hoosier children get access to an excellent education. People shouldn't have to feel like they have to move to different parts or pay extreme amount of money in order to provide the best for their children. I get there are schools tailored to offer these type of programs and that type of programs, and if you want to send your kids to those, that is great. But I believe that as far as on a public education level, everybody should have an opportunity to have an excellent opportunity to get educated. And we need to focus on the education portion of this and not standardized testing. And we need to pour into our teachers. You're finding 1 in 5 teachers are leaving the profession. And I believe there should be some kind of study. Why is that? And we understand that there's pay is part of that. I'm one of those 1 in 5, and I'll admit it. I loved working in the classroom. I really did. But my paychecks just weren't going to be enough. When I was working at Lawrence Central High School, I also had 2 other jobs along with that.
Wow.
And that was just long term not going to be sustainable for me.
Wow.
So we need to find out how we can improve upon keeping those retention numbers higher and higher. And we need to listen to our educators when they are talking, when they are voicing, their concerns and their frustrations. We in the General Assembly need to listen to them. They are the ones that are on the front lines of the education system here in our state. They are the ones that are preparing our young minds, our next generation of leaders, and they need the support of the state, and they need the funds in order to be equipped to do what they need to do in order to empower the next generation that's coming down the pipeline. Otherwise, there's going to be a continuous brain drain here in the state of Indiana. We're going to keep losing quality educators, and we're going to keep losing quality students to different states. And I do believe that in the end that will affect our economy, and that's something I know that nobody wants to see. We also need to put a little bit more emphasis into our trade schools and our apprenticeships. You don't necessarily have to push college on everybody, but there are other opportunities for folks, and those trade schools and those apprenticeships need to be looked at as stepping stones to professional work that is treated and respected and paid as professional work.
Well, and the downside about that too, Ronnie, in all of my years of education, so 13 years of primary and secondary education and 6 years of post-secondary education, I have never had a black man as my teacher. And the idea that we lost a black man, and image is everything, right? Andre Agassi told us that way back in the 80s. And the fact that we lost a competent black male teacher in Lawrence, that speaks volumes, Joe. But when you get to the DC, you're going to have to, repair a lot of what Betsy DeVos has been doing. Talk about your stance and what you want to do for public education from the federal level.
Well, Dana, first off, the goal should be to replace Betsy DeVos.
Absolutely.
We need a new president, and we need a new Secretary of Education. We need Secretary of Interior. So let's understand that the role that the House of Representatives should be playing is to support that new Secretary of Education. I would hope that the choice for that particular job would reflect what we're hearing from teachers, not just here in Indiana, the 4th Congressional District, but across the country. Mm-hmm. We have standardized testing, mandated testing. I was at a Third House event up in Carroll County, and I was listening to the school administrator talk about the fact that there are 7 mandated standardized tests the school must perform at a cost to the school system of $100,000 per test, $700,000 a year. The private and non-public schools not required to participate in this testing. They get the break. Public schools don't. So what could a little school system like Carroll County have if they could get an infusion of $700,000 a year back into their school system instead of that being mandated to spend? So, the opportunities are there. I thought Mayor Pete made a great point at one point in his campaign. And he said, it's one thing to want to expand the number of schools, but if that's the goal, then pay for it. But what we've seen the state government do, and what Betsy DeVos is attempting to do, they expanded the number of schools, but froze the pool of money. And now they are reducing that pool of money. And what has happened then is we're seeing among those competing for the available funds, here's what's happening. They are going at each other. They're going at each other. They are literally fighting for scraps off the table that the State House and the White House are sending out to our children. And it is time to put some rationale behind this. 97% of the children in the United States are educated in public schools. And these are vital. The Department of Defense has identified education as a national security issue. So we must address this with the same sense of urgency that we address building a new $1 billion plane or a $10 billion ship. We must create our future, and that future starts with education. And I'm talking universal kindergarten, pre-K, right through career learning. We lack 92,000 medical specialists to treat the population of the United States. Not that we don't have physicians talented enough to go on and become specialized. They're not pursuing it because of the cost, the exorbitant cost. I have spoken to young physicians, and by young, I mean 35, 36 years old, who are studying and working to be stem cell transplant specialists, who were telling me before their educational career was over, they would have $1 million tied up in that career. So we are seeing education become costly, so prohibitive in terms of cost. So, we can do things to make education far more affordable. But let's understand that my role in Washington would be this. The new Secretary of Education would come and say, here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan. And this is what it's going to cost. And it would be my job then to go back into the House of Representatives and support the legislation that we can put forth to fulfill the goals and plans of a qualified Secretary of Education. We all know Betsy DeVos is not qualified.
No, she's a thief, and I've said it once. Yeah,
plainly clear.
Yeah, I've called her a thief once, twice, and a gazillion times because she's a thief. Anytime that anybody that's that damn wealthy trying to take money from people who really don't have that much money, that's a thief. That is straight up a thief. All right, one of the other things that I wanted to touch on tonight before we left, because today was the last day that you can request your absentee ballot. And unfortunately, there are some folks running around America swearing that vote by mail is going to cause some problems. Now, I wrote an article about how Washington State and Colorado have been able to, do vote by mail with no issues. Can y'all talk about the importance of not just doing vote by mail for our primary here in Indiana, but we also need to do vote by mail in November, and we need to have vote by mail as an option moving forward past this COVID thing? Ronnie, you can go first.
Okay, so I mean, there is a great possibility that there could be a second wave of this COVID pandemic that would probably come at the time that the general election takes place. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we're trying to catch up to. We're not even at the point where it may look like or feel like we're getting ahead just because we're opening stuff up, but we are catching up to this pandemic. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's a ton of us out here that have not been or have not, felt the effects of it as far like physically, haven't gotten sick. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that we're immune to it. There has not been a vaccine put out yet. So there is a possibility that although Ronnie has not been infected yet, he could get infected come November.
Absolutely.
It is vitally important to have the option of being able to by mail, not only to protect the voters that are going out here to vote, but the poll workers who are going to be sitting there exposed to every person that walks in that voting precinct. Mm-hmm. It is not fair to have that person sitting there for 12 hours being exposed to 4, 5, 6, 7 different neighborhoods worth of people.
Right, right.
We're going to be right back where we were at the end of February, early March, where all of a sudden now we're shutting things down again, and people are even more frustrated because we're going through round 2 of this, and we're back at spiking numbers of infected folks, and God forbid, more deaths. Ideally, I would love to see 100% vote by mail. Like you just pointed out, there's 5 states that already have this, and they have reported increased voter turnout. There's no signs of fraud. It's a public safety mechanism in place that we could easily do without any fear of spreading a disease or rampant fraud. It's just honestly just fear mongering that is potentially that's just preventing vote by mail. But it's something that I believe that is vitally important and that we should be working towards.
Okay, Joe, what's your stance on vote by mail, my man?
So I'm all for it. Look, we have very low voter turnout, voter engagement. That's not a benefit to a free and democratic society. We want people engaged. The idea that this opens the door to voter fraud is ridiculous. There's no evidence of this. Mitt Romney actually made a comment today that 90% of the Republicans in the state of Utah support vote by mail. So they're creating this myth, and then they're putting it out there. It's just absolutely nonsense. Now, I can tell you that as a sitting congressman, uh, the House passed HR 1, which is a complete revamping of the electoral system, the election system. Uh, I would support HR 1. Uh, we need to do that. It's going to have to be reintroduced. There are 400 measures out there the Democrats have passed that the Republican Senate has not heard. Those bills are going to have to be passed again, and I look forward to passing HR 1. I look forward to promoting vote by mail. I think it promotes engagement. There is no evidence of voter fraud. That's a myth. It's a scare tactic brought up by right wingers, and no one's buying into it. And I'll give you evidence of this, if I might. We're watching absentee ballot requests around the state explode. Here in Tippecanoe County, the average absentee ballot request in prior election cycles was 500. And here just a few weeks ago, it was over 4,000.
That's what's up. And that's
so,
it.
You
want
this
greater
is people
access.
being engaged, getting engaged. They're involved. We need to encourage it. We think that they slam Democratic states for this, but understand our Republican governor, our Republican election board, they have promoted this. I think it's a good thing, and I don't think it's as partisan as some would paint the picture.
Absolutely, because access to the ballot, we want to create greater access. Ronnie, you had mentioned that you could see 100% mail. I would say an optional mail, where if you want mail, you get it. If you don't want mail, because you may not have an address. And our homeless population is allowed to vote, right? So they should still be able to go into a center or someplace and vote. Not everybody has an address. And so what I'm saying, I would love to see all the options on the table. Remember we were talking about energy and we were like, everything's on the table. That's the way it should be with our voting, because every American who could, has the right, because they were born in this country, because they are a citizen, they became a citizen, or whatever the case may be, they have the absolute right to cast a vote. And one of the reasons why I cast my vote and make sure I stay engaged is there are people fighting over immigration laws. And we see right now our government behaving abhorrently down on the border. We have children who are being deported without supervision when we're not supposed to do that. We've got it written in our laws that we're not supposed to do that. We've got kids that are being separated from their parents. We have kept kids in cages. We have done everything inhumanely when it comes to people who are seeking our help. Joe, I know when you go to Congress, the federal immigration laws are something that is hot and heavy. It is hot and heavy. Talk about your stance and how you feel about the way we are handling this immigration crisis and how we are treating those people on the border.
Dana, there needs to be a comprehensive review of the immigration laws that we have. We need a system in place. It has never been solid. We have been talking about this since Ronald Reagan. And we have found ourselves, both parties, on opposite sides of the fence. We have used this as a political football. We have used immigration as a political football. We have targeted Mexico and Central America. We have not done a thorough examination of our economic policies in Central America. So there is just this massive issue that needs to be broken down, studied, understood. We can create a better system. We need to understand that people don't pick up their children and the clothes on their back and walk 2,000 miles just because. They are fleeing. They are fleeing violence. They are fleeing abject poverty. There is no one here who would not do the same thing in the same circumstances. And we are criminalizing them for this. This is insane. We have created this problem on the border. We decided to arrest everyone. I have seen photos of children in leggings and waist belt cuffs being marched by armed men. This is insane. We're watching them be neglected and abused, locked away in cages. Children should never suffer that in a nation that boasts to be free.
Oh my God.
We are a better nation. We are comprised of better people. We have put the wrong people in charge. We, as voters, must go out and send the message they're all fired.
Mm-hmm.
Fire all of them
Mm-hmm.
and come back in here with people who are committed to finding a humane answer to the problems that we are facing.
And Ronnie, you know
We
what?
can do this.
Ronnie, it's not just a federal level thing either, because if you guys remember when we had Pence as governor, he was denying Muslim families asylum right here in Indiana. It's not, unfortunately, it's just not a federal issue. Talk to me from a state level how we should handle immigration in Indiana.
Well, for me, it's hard for me to not approach it really just from a humanistic point of view. When just like Joe mentioned, like when you have people fleeing, like when you have people walking thousands of miles, like you don't just do that on a whim. Like
Yeah.
something prompted you to make the decision to put foot in front of the other, to make that long and typically dangerous journey. Um, there's life and death in the balance there, and I think that um, just because we are government, or just because it's a government agency that is involved or that they are seeking assistance to, doesn't mean that it's a heartless mechanical, or should be a heartless mechanical entity. Um, Government is made up of people, and you know, as good stewards, we are to take care of the citizenry here.
Absolutely.
And I'm talking about the greater global citizenry, and I don't want to get into America having their hand in all over the world and everything. But if we have people coming to our doorstep seeking assistance because they are fleeing from something that's potentially putting their life, their family's life, their children's life in jeopardy, um, I believe that it is our duty to do whatever we can to help assist them. At the state level, if we are able to provide asylum for somebody who is running from any kind of hurt, harm, danger from another country, any kind of persecution from another country, I believe that we should exercise all that we can to help that individual out, or those individuals out. There, there's just to me, there's just no there's just nothing that would force me to turn somebody away if they are in those dire straits. I could not imagine
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
making a trip over a half a dozen countries to get turned back
Mm-hmm.
to almost certain.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And isn't that
and
just a Christian thing
if
to do? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm
Right.
sorry, Dana. I just want to throw in that, when we look at Central America, uh, what we need is a Marshall Plan for Central America. This is what we did in Europe. We did not ignore Europe. We rebuilt Europe. We did not punish Germany. We rebuilt Germany. This is what we can do. We should be looking at this seriously in Central America. There are things that we can be doing that would mitigate some of the circumstances that are driving these people to walk thousands of miles.
Absolutely.
This is what we as leaders of the world should be doing. We should not be sitting on the sidelines, ignoring the problem, and attempting to arrest our way out of it.
No, and it doesn't work. And I was saying, Ronnie, isn't that just the Christian thing to do? I mean, all these people running around here swearing they Christians.
Well, absolutely, and that's the thing. Like and I've said this before. Not one party has a monopoly on a religion, and I think that Democrats, for the most part, probably don't get to or don't boast Christianity because we as a party are open to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We are open to all sorts of ideas, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of of points of view. We don't necessarily prescribe that one religion is one over the is better than another. We take them all together.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Saunders
Mm-hmm.
is a Christian. And Ronnie
Mm-hmm.
Saunders' upbringing has taught him that you take care of your neighbor. And my neighbor is not just my neighbor across the street. My neighbor is my global neighbor. My neighbor that is in New York. My neighbor that's in California, but also my neighbor who's in Mexico, and my neighbor who's in Costa Rica, and my neighbor who's in Guatemala and Honduras and Africa. Like those are my neighbors. And if they're coming to me for help, I'm going to help them, or I'm going to find somebody who can help me help them.
That's what's up. And that's the way it's supposed to be, right? That's the way it's supposed to be because we are supposed to be the beacon. I'm not going to be as good as Thomasina was on Tuesday where she recited the entire, writings on the Statue of Liberty. But you know what it says. You know what it says. Indiana's on Dana Black, turn left. I want to thank my two guests. And the echo was in there, but you know what? These guys were bringing the funk today. They were talking to you about why they want to represent you in Congress or in our state house. Joe, tell the people where they can find you so they can donate to your campaign, become a volunteer, and actually help you win.
So, we're out there, our website, joeforhoosiers.com. You can reach out to us. You can examine our platforms and our planks. We are on Facebook. Joe for Congress. We are on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We are easy to find. We're trying very hard to make ourselves easier to find. Like I say, we have people waiting in the wings, waiting for an opportunity to re-engage the public in a public manner. What I call the pre-COVID campaign style, if you will. So, we're out there, joeforhoosiers.com. It's a good place to start. We respond to everyone. Some people ask for a phone call. They all get a phone call. If you reach out to us, we respond.
That's what's up. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. Ronnie, tell the people where they can find you.
I'm on the web as well. You go to saundersforindiana.com. You will find you'll find our stance on issues. You'll find publications that we've had put in the newspapers in the area. You can also find us on Facebook. Again, it's Saunders for Indiana. We are on Twitter as well, Ronnie for Indiana. Feel free to look us up, sign up. We will take volunteers in any capacity. We are looking forward to, like Joe, kind of hit the ground running once things open back up. And I'm just looking forward to, getting back out with the people and just, bringing some change here to Hamilton County, because I know the people are desperately looking for it, and I'm excited about being their voice down at the Capitol building.
I think I think y'all got what it takes. District 4 needs a change. Hamilton County is changing. See, I don't think Hamilton County had anticipated the growth and what that would mean when they were wanting everybody to come to Hamilton County. For a long time they was exclusive. Now everybody like, oh, I can buy a house up there too. Oh, I'm gonna go on up there. Now when the population increases and the demographics diversify, guess what? It's gonna turn purple, and next thing you know, it's gonna be blue. Indiana's on Dana Black. Thank you so much, fellas, for joining us tonight. Y'all be safe, and again, after the primary, we'll bring you guys back on because I want to make sure that you always have an opportunity to share who you are, what you're working with, without echo. All right, is that all right with y'all?
That sounds fine. Thank you, Dana, for the opportunity. Ronnie, good luck out there, buddy.
Thank you much, Joe. I appreciate it. Same to you, Dana. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. You guys are rock stars, really. I can't wait to get out there and actually shake y'all's hand again. I missed that.
That's right.
Y'all know I'm a hugger.
Yeah.
So, I'm a hugger. I'm going through withdrawals. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night now.
Take care.
Yo, Indiana's on Dana Black. I'm telling you, this is what we do. This is how we do. We're bringing you candidates from all over the state, talking to you about what's happening, right? Because we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to get to know these candidates. They're working hard. I'm going to end this call because this is driving me nuts. All right, there we go. Echo gone. I'm going to tell them that their audio was Anyway, Indiana's own Dana Black. So the great thing about all of this is, as we learn to do these things, I'm going to get better at it. It's going to get better. I got rid of the echo. So apparently the echo had nothing to do with how I was doing my thing. But unfortunately, we'll get it all worked out though, right? Because the bottom line is, we've been doing this for 4 years. We're trying to bring you everybody and as many people. This ain't new to us, but we're learning new technologies all along the way because I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys what you need and what you want. If you see somebody that I haven't reached out to yet, or somebody I haven't reached out to yet, hit my inbox. Make sure I get a message out to them so we can get them scheduled, all right? Indiana's own Dana Black, turn left. That's what we do on Thursday nights. Next week, I got 2 shows on again on Tuesday and on Thursday, and I'm bringing you people for you to know and love and fall in love with. So if you like what we're doing, continue to follow us. We're trying to bring you all the good people, and that's what we do. All right, Indiana's own. I'll holler at y'all later.